If you're anything like me and you strive to have a clean engine bay, one of the best ways to go about it is to remove your battery. Not entirely, just from the engine bay, and move it literally anywhere else in the car. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Now, as far as what you need to get this done is really going to be dependent on your car and where it is you want to actually put it. But regardless of the car that you are working on, there are some things that you will need. And by some things, I really just mean one thing, and that's a different battery. The reason why is because the average battery that's in your car, older cars like my 1986 300ZX behind me, are flooded lead acid batteries. Now the thing about those is you do not want to put those in an enclosed space, at least not in an enclosed space that you're going to be in. And that's because as the battery degrades, as the cells degrade, they give off hydrogen, and that's not something you want to just be living around and inhaling. So in order for you to be able to move this somewhere into the cabin, you want to have an AGM battery or a LiPo battery if your budget allows. The differences between the AGM and the flooded lead acid battery are going to be that the AGM is completely sealed. What it will have is a point for you to be able to attach a vent tube so that you can put that outside of the vehicle. Now you can find these relatively easily at your local auto parts store, and the LiPos are going to be the pinnacle of what you can get and put in your car. They have a lot of benefits, including the fact that they're just insanely light compared to AGM and flooded lead acid batteries. This being said, if you're watching your weight, well, if you're watching your car's weight, that's going to be the best way to cut some pounds. Granted, they are very not cheap. As much as I'd want to do one, I can't. I just can't. So once you decide on where you want to put your battery, for us, we're going to be putting it in the trunk. Initially, I wanted to put mine just behind the driver and passenger seat in a little cubby. The only downside is the type of battery that I am putting in the car is just much too large to be able to fit in that cubby. We're also going to need to calculate the distance that our battery is going to have to run. Now, once you calculate that distance, the starters usually are around 20 or 30 amps, max of what they will pull. So whatever that distance is, you can use this chart here to be able to calculate exactly what it is that you would want. In our case, we're going to be running 4-gauge wire to our starter. As for the alternator, we're going to be running 0-gauge. And the reason why is because we're running around 20 feet of wire, and we're going to be pushing around 150 amps. Now with all that being said, let's go ahead and hop into this install or creation.
The good thing about perpetually working on your cars is always a part, and you don't got to take a whole bunch of stuff apart every time you need to do something. Speaking of stuff, this is where we're going to be putting the battery, right here in this back driver corner. Now, I have some angle iron in here that is bolted and tacked in place. Slide our AGM battery into its home. So with that there, we can now put this on here. This is a battery tray off of Amazon. It was about 18 bucks. I did get the large one by accident. I was not paying attention when I placed the order. So I actually do have to adjust this just a bit. I need to cut off about 3 inches. We should be fine. The sides are all messed up now, but they are now cut and rebent, and they're at the exact length that I need them at. It's almost like my eyes are tape measures. That's insane how close I got that. And just like that, we have a nice and secure battery. But once the battery and everything is mounted in its home, we're going to figure out where we're going to put our vent hose. Now, this side's already open for me, so when I get my kit, all I have to do is plumb it into this hole back here, which should be super easy. We can go ahead and get started on the wiring. Now, as I had mentioned, we're doing 0-gauge wire up to the alternator, and then 4-gauge wire to the starter. So now we have to grab the battery terminals from up under the hood, bring them back here, and we can start wiring all that in. Now, I recommend doing this one at a time just so you don't get the wires mixed up. Now, the upside to how I'm doing this, pretty much all of these wires I put in here that aren't the original 2 wires. So I know exactly where they go, and I can just extend those back. Depending on how new your car is, you may or may not have more than 2 wires coming off of each terminal. In which case you want to consult your wiring diagram of your battery or your power supply, and that way you can see exactly where the wires go, and you can just kind of plan accordingly based off the wires that you'll need for that. So now that we have one of our terminals, let's go ahead and go back to the battery. So some of the parts and tools that you're going to need to do something like this is, once you determine whichever wire you need the appropriate gauge wire. In addition to that, most of these, if you get them with kits, will come with some type of ring terminals as well as heat shrink tubing. However, I have heat shrink tubing that I'm going to be running. This is all chemical resistant and flame retardant. Something like this is really good for under the hood or in the gas tank. This is actually what I used to heat shrink all the wires when I did the fuel pump, which you can check out up there in the top right hand corner. But on that same vein, you might also need some specific ring terminals. These kits here come with everything appropriate for the gauge of wire. Now there might be some times where you need something else. For instance, my 150 amp breaker here has 1/4 inch terminals on it. 9 times out of 10, you're never going to take 0 gauge to 1/4 inch, but they do make that. These are my 1/4 inch 0 gauge ring terminals. These, which are 3/8, which is between 5/16 and 7/16, which is what we need for both our alternator and our starter. Now, in that same vein, you're going to want a nice pair of wire shears, which is what we're going to use to cut all the wire, as well as a decent wire crimper. This one here does 6 different sizes. Now, with all that being said, all this can be had relatively inexpensively, as these kits are provided kind of abundantly on Amazon. If you want to search for them, you can, but I will leave links for what I have here down in the description below. All of my Amazon links are affiliate links, so if you do decide to purchase something from there, please do use my link, and it will give the channel a little kickback to help with all the builds that we have going on here, like Miso and the Porsche, which I still have yet to come up with a name for. So back here at the battery, we have our terminal, which we're just going to go ahead and stick on here real quick, and I'm going to simplify this significantly compared to how it is on the car from the factory. So using this wire here, which is going to be our oxygen-free 0 gauge battery cable. Oxygen-free is kind of important, more so because it has less resistance, and going with this length of cable, the best bet is to go with as little resistance cable as you possibly can get. So I did cheap out a little bit. This is aluminum copper clad wire, so it isn't pure copper. But with that being said, we're going to run this along where I have our negative wire ran. So that is going to be down the side here, just under this brace that goes between both sides of the car. And that's going to lead to our little cubby here, which is going to be our nervous system. And it's going to go to this guy here, which is our 150 amp breaker for our alternator. There are 2 points where this is going to break out. One point here, which is going to go from the battery to our fusible links, as well as our relays and everything else. And then we have our alternator fuse, which is going to go straight to the alternator. And that guy is going to be sitting somewhere in here, but it will be following the wire all the way down here, coming down the side, going to go under that little cover there, because this is also where our wiring harness comes up. So it's going to run along that, go down here, down to where I have my fusible links here. There's a pass through on the firewall, which goes into our engine bay. Right down here, which is just a little bit hard to see, and it's going to go up here and go right to our alternator, which is right there on the passenger side. So that's going to be super easy. Now, in addition to the battery coming in on the breaker, we're also going to have the 4 gauge wire coming off of that, going down that same path. And the only reason why is because I don't want to daisy chain the alternator and the starter together. And generally the starter is going to have a connection straight to the battery, so it's easier just to go off that terminal. It saves me like a foot or two cable, and it also, I mean, it just will look a little bit cleaner. The negative cable is also going to follow that exact same path, go to that exact same place, and as I showed before, our ground terminal will be back there in the back. So what I need to do now is, only because it's going to make my life a lot easier with everything I'm doing in the future, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to pull the passenger seat, and then we're going to pull up this part of the carpet. And by pull it up, I mean like really just fold it back, and I can run all my cables as I need. from the back of the car up to the front.
It's honestly not too difficult. The hardest part about this is the planning to get everything in the right place to where you need it. The other thing about it is it does help to have just a little bit of experience wiring things in. That way, you know, don't wire your positive to your negative, otherwise you're going to melt something or blow up your battery. So just know that you have everything connected the way it needs to be, and then honestly, you shouldn't really have any issues with this whole setup. But with our game plan laid out, let's go ahead and mock everything up, get it cut, get it terminated, and get it hooked up so that we can have battery power back in the Z. So now that we have all three cables ran back from the battery, it's just time to terminate everything. I did buy 25 feet of cable, which ended up being more than enough. As you can see, I have just about 5 feet of slack here, and this is coming up down from the firewall. So in all reality, the longest run is going to be the alternator, and that's probably going to get cut right here. So you can see I'll have quite a bit of zero gauge left over if I ever need to do anything in the future, and also have those extra ring terminals. Now, the alternator requires 7/16 ring terminals, and the starter requires 5/16 ring terminals. So instead, I bought 3/8, which is slightly bigger than 5/16. I mean, it's 6/16. Basically, I should be able to run that on both. It might be a little tight on the alternator. If that's indeed the case, I can just drill that out. That's no problem at all. And the reason why is because buying multiple size ring terminals for zero gauge, one, isn't cheap. Not that they're cheap to begin with, or about 10-15 bucks. And that's a lot for just 10 ring terminals. We're not going to waste money and buy multiple sizes that I'm going to use just this once, or maybe again in the next decade one time. So we're going to go ahead. We need to get these things trimmed up, get them terminated, get them hooked up. It's going to be super, ultra, duper simple. So let's get into it.
finally finished up. We got the battery mounted in the trunk. We got the breakers all wired in, and then all the wires connected up to the starter and alternator in the engine. And now pretty much all we got to do is test it. So let's go ahead, grab the key, turn on the ignition, and see what we have. All right, so as I had stated before, the dash and everything did not work because we had our battery fusible link blown. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have everything undone here. This is not gonna get turned on because that goes up to the power steering. That is not wired in at the moment. This one here is going to be the one for the alternator. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the key in the ignition, turn it on, and then we'll go ahead and close this breaker, see if the dash lights up. Ignition's on. Turn the breaker on. Look at that. Everything's back. Turn signals and everything work again. And that is one successful battery relocation.
With all that being done, we're finally one step closer to a clean engine bay. And this is one of the things that I've been trying to get done for honestly kind of the longest time. I just never really stepped forward and grabbed like all the stuff that I need to actually get the job done, like the wiring and all the fittings. But with that all being said, as you can see here, we did get started on the next part of this, which is moving all the fusible links and the relays that I used to have in the footwell of the passenger side to the same cubby. In addition to that, we also have the power steering controller back here, and we'll also have another fuse box for our headliner project here. With all that being said, I want to thank you guys for watching. If you liked the video, please do consider hitting the like button down below. And also, if you're looking forward to those videos coming out for the other parts of the wiring, as well as any other thing we're going to be doing here with the 300ZX or any of the other project cars, and you have not already, please do consider subscribing, as well as clicking that bell icon with all right next to it so you get notified when I drop new videos. You can head over to buymeacoffee.com/FatalRPM if you want to help the channel out just a little bit more. And as always, I want to thank you guys again for watching. Peace out, and I'll see you in the next one.